not in theaters, is a movie that we've all been. I mean, I know Ron and I had seen it before. I think John, you just recently watched it,
Yes.
and we rewatched it as well. But we got word about this movie RYE Lane, which
Mm.
is coming out. We're reviewing it this week. It comes out next Friday on Hulu. But I think we wanted to talk about it the week before just to kind of get everyone's awareness up about it. And if you have Hulu, and it'll be out next Friday. But if you don't have Hulu, I'll just kick it off and say you should probably get it because there's a great romantic comedy coming out next Friday on Hulu called RYE Lane, which it's so weird how early we got to see this movie, like
Yeah.
2-3 months ago, and it was like, when can we talk about this again?
Yeah.
Oh, like in March.
It was like January
But
23rd that they sent.
it's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, over 2 months, and it's just like, but I think that's also the kind of situation where like you can talk about it whenever, but we'd appreciate it if you reviewed it around the time of release, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's also the thing, like that's that vote of confidence where it's like they know it's a good movie.
Yeah.
They're not hiding the movie. They're not saying don't talk about the movie, because this movie is fantastic.
So good.
I fucking love this movie. This is my number one movie of the year so far.
This is like automatically one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time. And I think
it's
amazing.
I can
say this, and I'm not trying to condescend to the movie when I say this. I say this this is the cutest movie I've ever seen, like in my life, of just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like every moment made me like, if a romantic comedy is supposed to make you kind of crush on both of the people, and like want to see them kiss. And I heard someone, I think it was Scott Aukerman, say that like you can see a movie where the stakes are saving the world, and then a romantic comedy is expected to make you care just as much about, are these two people going to kiss? This movie took me on that ride, and it's like, it may seem kind of light and fun and silly, but if you're a romantic like I am, it's I mean, I there are highs and lows in it, but I was like very much like in my feelings through so much of this movie because of how much I wanted these two characters to like find each other. And it's not about them denying, it's not, it breaks so many of the conventions. And I think without spoiling it, we should just say that like, it's not your usual, they meet, there's all these problems, they do this, that. There's something so pure about this movie's depiction of a relationship. It reminds you of the Richard Linklater films, the Sunrise Sunset trilogy,
the Before series,
Ethan Hawke and Julia Delpy, where it's like, like to me, it's in that vein of like, it's in its own little category of these two characters who come into each other's lives, and then just, it's not quite what you'd call an adventure, but and it's not quite like just a conversation either. There's a lot that happens and a lot of filmmaking in this that's really innovative. But yeah, I mean, I was completely smitten. I mean, it's like, that's why I'm saying that it's a cute movie. It's because it's like, it's totally like a movie that you have a romance with the movie. It hits you, and then you're just smitten with it. And at the end, you're kind of feeling like flushed because it was so, I don't know, the sweetness and I don't know. I mean, obviously you guys dug it, but I'm so glad I finally got to see it, and I'm so glad we're finally getting to talk about it, and that other people are finally going to get to see it. I could see this movie becoming a huge, like, very reliable watch for some people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
It's magical. It's like there's a whimsy that this movie has. Man, there's a scene that's like burned in my mind. Maybe I'm kind of in love with Brixton, and the times that I've gone, I kind of fell in love with it. There's this piece where they're just kind of walking through the market and Brixton.
The market stuff was so like, it just was such a realistic depiction of those markets. Like, 'cause some of the things are closed and some of them are open, and it's like a ghost town, but it's also not. Yeah, it's crazy.
There's like a thing. There's a thing that they're doing that I try to do that I think you guys try to do too. It's just like, I mean, sure, we all want control of some aspects of our lives, but when you really let go and have fun, there's just like, I loved when the guy said what he did for a living. He's like, I'm a banker, and the guy's like, boring. It's like, just like so random. And he could have been mad at that guy and cursed him out, but it's just the randomness of just meeting people and how magical it feels. Even if it doesn't develop into like love for the rest of your life, like just having fun in that moment. And you have a woman that kind of comes in and swoops in and saves him in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before, in a way that I've never seen. Like, you always see the guy do that for a woman, But seeing this woman come in and kind of be this ray of sunshine for this guy in a real dark time, and she comes through in so many cool ways. Like it just feels like, oh my God, like I've watched it one time and I watched it the second time and I still felt this like electric feeling at the restaurant scene.
Yeah, when she comes in and sits down next to him,
I felt it like it felt.
It's like it's a lightning bolt. Yeah,
I felt like I never saw the movie,
and it's like so fast and funny and well acted and well shot, and like you've never seen a movie like that. Even the way that restaurant looks with the guy playing the keyboard, it's like this is real in a way.
You know that
this may seem whimsical, and you're right about the whimsy, but the whimsy is more real. I mean, it's like it's not the kind of indie film whimsy that puts it in. I mean, as much as I love Wes Anderson and directors like that who create a world,
it kind of reminded me of a Wes Anderson whimsy,
but it's
more
it's
real.
not whimsical in that direction of creating like a fake world. It's in the direction of creating like more of a real world somehow, or maybe of showing how like inner city life can be kind of a dollhouse life. And let's be honest, like so often a movie like this would have some grim storyline or something, but to have like an urban landscape that is full of joy and full of life, and like you said, full of background characters and people kind of almost like a musical with people kind of becoming characters for just a moment, to have a line or two that's significant. But just the way they move through the city, like it's their city, and they're just their conversation is so funny, and the way that they go back and forth and little things that come out, like he's a grand gesture guy in terms of his relationships and how that becomes like an important idea. This idea of waving at boats.
Oh my God,
wave at boats or not.
I've never heard.
There's so many things that are like so simple and so pure and so part of the story, and yet they're perfect hooks to pull you along and get you to that moment at the end where it's like, you know, it's the romantic comedy ending where you want the characters to be in the same place because they're feeling this thing, and it's like this movie has such a fun way of presenting that, you know, that image, like, you know, like Harry running across town to see Sally on New Year's Eve. Like it gives you that feeling. I was exhilarated at the end.
They meet up there, and it's like the camera's kind of going around. And like that's some of the filmmaking too. You meant like there's a lot of fisheye, you know, stuff, and you know, macro shots and things like that look really cool. And like some of the tracking shots across like the hotel, across the different like apartments or the homes, like where it's kind of going like longitude across the room instead of like kind of turning. Like the camera's like on a dolly or something, but it looks really cool. But yeah, this I rewatched it and I'm glad I did, just so close to the episode, because I kind of was holding this one a little close because like we didn't really talk about the first time we watched it. Just I loved it then, but like watching it again, and that's the thing too, like it's an hour 22 with credits, so like it moves. You know, you talk about like just that like that energy that especially she has, but that the romance has, that they're experiencing, you know, that walk about the town and you're just kind of following them and you're just like, you don't want that energy to let up. And like the movie's runtime and the lack of like reliance on any kind of like side stories or like other characters that normally come in and like throw a wrench in the plans or whatever, like that lack I think just lets this movie run away. And I just feel like, if you like him, I was going to say you should, the guy who plays Dom, he's I don't know if you ever watched the show Industry.
I've seen it.
I've watched the first season like 4 times. And I think I'm going to rewatch the second season. I'm obsessed.
That's the only place I really know him from. Like when I saw him, I recognized him from that, but
he's a young
there's
guy,
honestly like there's honestly like iconic scenes in this movie.
Yes.
And I really hope it finds an audience, because you know the restaurant scene that Ronald mentioned is just, again, like she's a lightning bolt, and they're them going off one another and like turning the tables on his ex and her, you know, new guy is just
Eric, it's hilarious. Eric is hilarious
to
character. I love the kind of character that's so dumb that he somehow escapes this. Like he's
not a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy. And even in the end, they pop up at that art show, and you get a sense that it's like, well, they're kind of that couple. Like she's a little bit uptight, and he's this goofball, but they seem to have a real thing going on. And I don't know if did you stick around to the very end? There's something after the end credits that was but that gag was great.
It's hilarious.
He recognized Eric's dick. I thought all that was so funny. And he had this great little aside when they've broken into her ex's apartment, Jules's place, and he's like smelling a candle or something, and he says, "What is that?" That's how I imagine Obama smells.
Yeah.
Man, in that scene,
he says, "Is that sandalwood
so
or something
funny.
like that?"
In that scene,
there's so many little asides, and they all, I don't know. I wonder how rehearsed all that was, because it was brilliantly acted. It felt so natural.
there's a lot of like that boat was one example, but it literally is about like people who do this and people that don't do that.
Yeah.
Because that tribe line was that. Like when he said, "What about tribe?" That scene
Yeah, jazz.
is really like, if you feel like that about a Tribe Called Quest when he shit on that record, that's really because that's also jazz. Like,
yeah.
Tribe has jazz in it, and it's like, if you don't like jazz and you don't like who are you as a person? And there was a lot of that.
Well, there's also the Terrence.
Is that Low End
Darby
Theory
scene at the party
Yeah,
when they
Theory.
put his phone on.
Oh, both of those are incredible. What did you say?
I think it's on Low End Theory.
I was saying it's also the Terrence Trent D'Arby scene where they take his phone and they put it on at the party.
that's what I was going to say. Like the scenes that like are now scenes like, you know, we're all fans of rom-coms. We talk about it all the time, and like how they don't really exist anymore.
No, but that's like a perfect rom-com scene. That scene at the house part, that the yard party, the barbecue, or whatever, the cookout.
And he's just thumbing through like the Dom's phone, and like, you know, the songs that are coming on, and it's like that. It's the restaurant. It's the karaoke scene to Shoop.
The karaoke scene is incredible.
And it's so great because like it's set up at the restaurant scene. You know, like there's so much payoff, and it's an hour and 22 minutes. Like, how did they accomplish this?
I think it's what you
so
said,
successfully.
They left out the bullshit. They left out the fake conflict. There's a little bit of conflict, and a little bit there's definitely hurdles, and there's definitely something that they have to get past and growth for them to find each other. But like, that stuff is more embedded in character. It's not this kind of, oh, they're lying, and there's a whole thing where it's like deception and back and forth and a misunderstanding. It's like they're pretty much into each other from the moment they meet.
From the jump,
for the moment they have a hurdle, and then they get past that, and then you get to see how, again, it's that fun of finding out how are these people gonna find each other, like how is it going to click, you know, and how are they going to pull it off filmically, and all that stuff is done so incredibly well. It's like, it's one of those rare things where I was just like, nope, I don't have any issues with this. I'm 100% in love with this movie.
It's
which is not easy to do, especially with something where the formula we've seen beaten to death before by many like lesser movies with a lot less just ideas in them. But
I was going to also mention, without saying what it is, there's an amazing cameo in the movie that a lack of great rom-coms. Arguably, some people might say it's one of the best rom-coms of whatever recent years. There's an amazing cameo.
Now, did that person help produce or something? Because that's the one thing I was wondering, was why that person was in the movie outside of just the fun of seeing them. But it was a great moment.
I don't think so. I was watching this interview with the filmmaker, and she was saying when they were writing it that like they wanted to have the burrito or one of the restaurants to have like a kind of like clever name playing on like a rom-com movie. And they went through all these iterations of it, and you know, the one they end up on in the movie and who they have cameo, I think it just came down to them writing a letter or something and like getting in touch with the person's representation or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I'm game, like let's do this. And
it's such a funny moment. Like,
it's fucking hilarious. It's so good. It's so good. Guys, please, if you're listening to us and if you've listened to us for 1 or 371 episodes, you know, when we're this emphatically in love with a movie, especially a rom-com, which, you know, again, you don't get many of them. It's fun. The movie's hilarious. The romance is great. The love story is great. The performances are great. The music is outstanding. And there's no reason not to watch this movie if you like a rom-com or even just a straight-up comedy. It's on Hulu. If you don't have it, sign up for a trial or something, because you want to watch this movie. It's called RYE LANE. Again, it comes out next Friday. I don't care what's in theaters next Friday. This is my recommendation for your next Friday, is to watch this movie, you know, for a good laugh, or watch it with your loved one and you know, enjoy. Honestly, one of the best. I loved what's the one the Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron. What's it called?
Long Shot? Wasn't that?
Long Shot.
Yeah.
That's the last amazing rom-com in my book.
Wow.
And this one is like is the now one for me. Like
That's high
Long
praise,
Shot
man.
and RYE LANE is the go-tos right now, and you got to watch it. It's on Hulu next week, so
Yeah.
Can't recommend it enough. I can't wait to watch it. Aaron didn't get to watch it with me, so we're gonna watch it again next week, and I know she's gonna love it. So,
Just because I can rock a Camino, don't think I can't fuck you up.
oh my god, so funny, dude.
Well, I mean, even that guy, even Jules, it's like
God.
he's terrible, but even
Everybody
he
has a moment, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, it's like, you know, you watch a movie and you go, I wouldn't mind playing anybody. Like, I wouldn't feel like my
Yeah.
character was a dud or got
Yeah.
short shrift. There's nobody that's made like into the easy bad guy. And I think part of that lack of conflict that might make a movie seem light is part of why this movie feels so sweet, is because it is very even-handed, even with the kind of broad comic moments. There's nobody who comes off bad. And it's not like that's a value. I'm fine with bad people, bad characters in movies, but it's nice to see a movie that has like a charitable view of humanity, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Amazing movie.
Great.